When 10-year-old Xander Musk saw 3 older boys bullying the school janitor, he made a choice that would change everything. His act of courage was caught on video and shared millions of times around the world. But what happened next shocked everyone. Xander's famous father, Elon Musk, discovered something incredible about the janitor that no one else knew. Something that connected their families in a way that seemed impossible. When Elon walked into that school board meeting the next day, he didn't just defend his son's actions, he made an offer that left the entire faculty speechless. But here's what will amaze you. How could a simple janitor hold the key to one of the most successful men in the world's biggest mystery? And what secret from 3 years ago would prove that sometimes the person you help today might be the very person who saves your tomorrow? The lunch bell at Redwood Academy rang like a warning bell that Tuesday afternoon. 10-year-old Xander Musk hurried through the marble hallways, his backpack bouncing against his shoulder as he rushed toward the cafeteria. The fancy private school always felt too big, too quiet, too perfect. Everything was polished and proper, from the gleaming floors to the gold-framed paintings on the walls. Xander slowed down when he heard voices coming from around the corner near the maintenance closet. Not friendly voices, mean voices. The kind that made his stomach twist into knots. "Come on, old man. Pick it up." "Yeah, that's what we pay you for." Cruel laughter echoed off the walls. Xander peeked around the corner and felt his heart sink. 3 8th-grade boys stood in a circle around Mr. Benito Ramirez, the school janitor. The older man held his mop bucket in one hand and looked down at the floor where the boys had thrown their lunch trash, sandwich wrappers, empty juice boxes and banana peels scattered everywhere. "Please, boys," Mr. Ramirez said quietly, his voice carrying a slight accent, "I will clean it up. Just let me get my supplies." "No, no, no," sneered the tallest boy, Marcus Wellington. His father owned half the buildings in the city. "You clean it up now, with your hands. Show us how grateful you are for this job." The second boy, Trevor Kane, pulled out his phone. "Yeah, this is going to be hilarious. Wait until everyone sees this video." Mr. Ramirez's shoulders sagged. He was a small man with gentle brown eyes and gray hair that he always kept neat and tidy. Every morning he greeted students with a warm smile and asked about their families. He knew everyone's name, even though most kids walked past him like he was invisible. "I have work to do," Mr. Ramirez said, trying to step around them. The third boy, Ryan Phillips, blocked his path. "You're not going anywhere until you clean up our mess and say thank you for giving you something to do." "Thank you?" Mr. Ramirez's voice was confused. "Thank you for what?" "For letting you serve us," Marcus laughed. "That's your job, right? To serve rich kids like us." They pushed Mr. Ramirez backward until he stumbled slightly. His mop bucket tilted, and soapy water splashed onto the floor. "Oops," Trevor giggled. "Looks like you made an even bigger mess. Better clean that up too." Xander's hands clenched into fists. His heart pounded so hard he could hear it in his ears. He thought about walking away. These boys were much bigger than him. They were older, stronger, and meaner. Getting involved would only cause trouble. But then he looked at Mr. Ramirez's face. The kind man who always remembered to ask Xander about his science projects. The gentle person who had once helped Xander find his lost homework folder without being asked. The quiet hero who made sure the school was clean and safe for everyone. Mr. Ramirez didn't deserve this. Xander took a deep breath and stepped around the corner. "Leave him alone." The 3 boys turned in surprise. Marcus looked Xander up and down and started laughing. Well, look who it is. The famous Musk." He said the name like it tasted bad. "What do you want, little boy?" "I want you to stop being bullies," Xander said, his voice shaking but determined. "Mr. Ramirez is a good person. He works hard and treats everyone with respect. You should do the same." Trevor pointed his phone at Xander. "Oh, this is even better. The rich boy thinks he's a superhero. I'm not trying to be a superhero, Xander replied, stepping closer to Mr. Ramirez. I'm just trying to be a decent person. Marcus's face turned red with anger. You think you're better than us because your dad is famous? You think you can tell us what to do? I think anyone who picks on someone who can't fight back is a coward, Xander said. The words hung in the air like lightning. Other students began gathering in the hallway, drawn by the commotion. Some pulled out their phones. Others whispered to their friend. What did you just call us? Ryan stepped forward, his fists clenched. I called you cowards, Xander repeated, his voice getting stronger. 3 against 1, picking on someone who's just trying to do his job. That's what cowards do. Mr. Ramirez placed a gentle hand on Xander's shoulder. Mizo, he said softly, using the Spanish word for my son. It's okay, I'm used to this. You don't need to get in trouble for me. Xander looked up at the kind man's face and saw something that made his chest hurt. Resignation, sadness, the look of someone who had given up on expecting better from the world. It's not okay, Xander said firmly. Nobody should have to get used to being treated badly. Nobody should have to accept being disrespected just because they clean floors instead of sitting in boardrooms. The crowd of students grew larger. Phones pointed at them from every direction. Someone started a live stream. The hashtag Redwood drama began trending within minutes. Marcus grabbed Xander by the shirt and shoved him against the lockers. The metal was cold and hard against Xander's back. You want to be a hero so bad, Marcus snarled. Let's see how heroic you feel when you're eating lunch through a straw. But Xander didn't back down. Even with his heart racing and his hands shaking, he looked Marcus straight in the eyes. My dad always says that how you treat people who can't help you shows who you really are, Xander said. What does this say about you? Before Marcus could respond, a sharp voice cut through the noise. What is going on here? Vice Principal Mrs. Henderson pushed through the crowd of students, her high heels clicking on the marble floor. She was a tall woman with steel gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. Everyone disperse immediately, she commanded. Put those phones away right now. Marcus quickly let go of Xander's shirt and stepped back. Trevor tried to hide his phone, but it was too late. The damage was done. The video was already online, spreading faster than wildfire. Mr. Wellington, Mr. Kane, Mr. Phillips, Mrs. Henderson said sternly. My office. Now. As the 3 bullies slunk away, Mrs. Henderson turned to Xander. Mr. Musk, you're coming with me too. Fighting is not tolerated at this school. But I wasn't fighting, Xander protested. You were just causing a disturbance, Mrs. Henderson interrupted. Detention. After school today. As the crowd dispersed and Mrs. Henderson led Xander away, he looked back at Mr. Ramirez. The janitor was quietly cleaning up the scattered trash, just like always. But when their eyes met, Mr. Ramirez smiled. A real smile that reached his eyes. Gracias, mijo, he mouthed silently. Thank you. Xander smiled back. Even though he was walking toward detention, some things were worth getting in trouble for. Some people were worth standing up for. And sometimes doing the right thing was more important than staying out of trouble. He had no idea that this moment would change everything. He didn't know that the video of his brave stand was already being shared around the world. He couldn't imagine that his famous father would soon see it and be filled with pride. And he definitely didn't know that Mr. Ramirez was about to become much more than just the school janitor. But all of that was still to come. For now, Xander was just a 10-year-old boy who had seen injustice and refused to walk away. And that, as it turned out, was exactly enough. Within an hour of the confrontation, the video had been shared over 1,000 times. By the time school ended, that number had grown to 50,000. The hashtag #JanitorDefender was trending on social media platforms across the globe. Emma Rodriguez, a 7th grader who had filmed the encounter, watched in amazement as her post exploded online. Comments poured in from around the world. "This kid has more courage than most adults. Where are this boy's parents? They raised a hero. The way he stood up for that janitor brought tears to my eyes. We need more kids like this in the world." But not all the comments were positive. Some criticized Xander for making a scene or embarrassing his classmates. A few even suggested he was showing off because his dad is famous. Emma felt sick reading those mean comments. She had been there, she had seen Xander's face when he decided to step forward. There was nothing fake about his courage. Meanwhile, at Redwood Academy, Principal Dr. Williams paced nervously in his office. His phone rang constantly as reporters tried to get statements about the viral hero student. The school's website had crashed from too many visitors trying to learn more about the incident. "This is a public relations nightmare," he muttered to Mrs. Henderson. "The board is going to have my head." "Actually, sir," Mrs. Henderson said carefully, "most of the publicity seems positive. People are praising the school for having students with such strong character." Dr. Williams frowned. "But what about the bullying? That makes us look bad." The bullying was handled immediately. The real story here is about the brave student who stood up for what's right. Across town, Xander sat in after-school detention, completely unaware that his moment of courage was being celebrated around the world. He stared at the math worksheets Mrs. Chen had given him, but his mind kept wandering back to Mr. Ramirez's grateful smile. Had he done the right thing? His stomach still felt twisted from the confrontation. He wasn't used to being the center of attention, and he definitely wasn't used to getting in trouble at school. The detention room was quiet except for the ticking of the old clock on the wall. 2 other students sat nearby, both there for talking during class. They kept glancing at Xander with curious expressions. "Hey," whispered Jake Morrison, a 6th grader with freckles and messy red hair. "Is it true you stood up to Marcus Wellington and his crew?" Xander looked up from his worksheet. "I guess." "Dude, that's so cool," Jake said, ignoring Mrs. Chen's warning look. "Those guys are total jerks. Someone needed to put them in their place." "I wasn't trying to put anyone in their place," Xander replied quietly. "I just couldn't watch them be mean to Mr. Ramirez." The other student, a girl named Lily Park, leaned forward. "My mom works 2 jobs just like your janitor guy probably does. If someone treated her like that..." She shook her head angrily. "You did good, Xander." Mrs. Chen cleared her throat. "Less talking, more worksheets, please." As detention ended and students began packing up their things, Mrs. Chen approached Xander's desk. "Your father called," she said gently. "He's coming to pick you up." Xander's heart sank. He was already in trouble at school. Now he'd have to face his dad's disappointment too. 20 minutes later, a familiar Tesla pulled into the school parking lot. Elon Musk stepped out, wearing his usual jeans and black t-shirt. He didn't look angry, but Xander couldn't tell what he was thinking. They drove home in silence for the first few minutes. Xander stared out the window, watching the trees and houses blur past. "How was detention?" Elon finally asked. "Boring," Xander mumbled. "Just math worksheets." "Mm-hmm." Elon glanced at his son in the rearview mirror. "Want to tell me what happened today?" Xander's shoulders slumped. "I got in a fight. Sort of. Not really a fight, but I got in trouble anyway." "I see. And why did you get in trouble?" "Because I told some older kids to stop being mean to Mr. Ramirez." Elon nodded slowly. "The janitor?" "Yeah. They were making him clean up trash they threw on the floor just to be cruel. They were recording it and laughing at him." Xander's voice got stronger as he remembered his anger. "It wasn't fair, Dad. Mr. Ramirez is really nice. He always asks about my projects and remembers everyone's names. He didn't deserve that." "So you stepped in?" I told them to leave him alone. They called me names and pushed me around, but I didn't back down. Then Mrs. Henderson came and gave everyone detention. They pulled into their driveway, but Elon didn't turn off the engine right away. He turned around to face his son directly. "Are you sorry you did it?" Xander thought for a moment. "I'm sorry I got in trouble. And I'm sorry those guys were so mean. But I'm not sorry I stood up for Mr. Ramirez." A small smile crossed Elon's face. "Good. That's exactly the right answer." Inside their house, Xander's mother Grimes was waiting in the kitchen. She wrapped him in a warm hug. "How are you feeling, sweetheart?" she asked, smoothing his hair. "Tired," Xander admitted, and confused. "Some kids at school said I was brave, but Mrs. Henderson said I was causing trouble. I don't know if I did the right thing or not." "You did exactly the right thing," Grimes said firmly. "Standing up for people who can't defend themselves is always right, even when it's hard." That evening at dinner, the conversation was quieter than usual. Xander picked at his food, still processing the day's events. "You know," Elon said thoughtfully, "when I was about your age, I saw some older kids picking on a smaller boy at school. I wanted to help, but I was scared. I walked away instead." Xander looked up, surprised. "Really?" "Really, I regretted it for years. I wondered what would have happened if I had been braver, like you were today. But what if those boys had hurt me?" "That was a risk," Elon acknowledged. "But some things are worth taking risks for. Some people are worth defending, even when it's scary." After dinner, Xander went to his room to work on homework. He tried to focus on his science reading, but his mind kept wandering. He thought about Mr. Ramirez's sad eyes when the bullies surrounded him. He thought about the man's grateful smile afterward. He thought about his parents' proud expressions at dinner. Maybe he had done the right thing after all. What Xander didn't know was that at that very moment, his act of courage was inspiring people around the world. Teachers were showing the video to their classes and talking about standing up for others. Parents were having conversations with their children about bullying and kindness. Social media was filled with stories of people who had been inspired to defend someone in need. A 10-year-old boy's moment of moral courage had created ripples that were spreading farther than anyone could imagine. And in a small apartment across town, a man named Benito Ramirez was having dinner with his daughter Sophia, telling her about the brave young boy who had stood up for him when no one else would. Neither family knew it yet, but their lives were about to become connected in ways that would change everything. The next morning, Elon Musk sat in his corner office at Tesla headquarters, surrounded by 3 large computer monitors displaying rocket designs, electric vehicle blueprints, and global market data. He had arrived early as usual, hoping to review the latest Neuralink presentations before his first meeting. But concentration was impossible. His mind kept drifting to his conversation with Xander the night before. The pride he felt in his son's courage mixed with concern about the attention the incident was receiving online. A sharp knock on his door interrupted his thoughts. "Come in," he called. Jessica Martinez, his longtime assistant, burst through the door with unusual urgency. Her normally calm demeanor was replaced by excitement and worry. "Mr. Musk, I'm sorry to interrupt, but you need to see this immediately. It's about Xander." Elon's stomach dropped. "What happened? Is he okay?" "He's fine," Jessica assured him quickly. "But sir, this video, it's everywhere." She placed her tablet on his desk and pressed play. Elon watched in complete silence as his 10-year-old son faced down 3 teenagers nearly twice his size. He heard Xander's voice, shaking but determined, telling the bullies to leave the janitor alone. He watched his child call the older boys cowards and refused to back down even when physically threatened. When the video ended, Elon stared at the screen for a long moment without speaking. "When did this happen?" he asked quietly. "Yesterday afternoon, just after lunch. It's been shared over 2 million times in the past 18 hours. The hashtag Janitor Defender is trending worldwide. Jessica swiped to show him the flood of comments and reactions. News outlets were picking up the story. Talk show hosts were discussing it. Parents everywhere were sharing it with their children as an example of moral courage. People are calling him a hero, Mr. Musk. They're saying you and Ms. Boucher raised him right. Elon watched the video again, this time focusing on details he had missed before. The fear in Xander's eyes that he overcame with determination. The way he positioned himself protectively in front of the janitor. The genuine respect he showed for a man that most people barely noticed. But what struck Elon most was the janitor himself. The man's quiet dignity in the face of cruelty. His gentle attempt to protect Xander from getting in trouble. The grateful smile that lit up his face when someone finally stood up for him. Jessica, I need you to find out everything you can about this janitor. What's his name? How long has he worked at the school? Does he have family? I'll get right on it, sir, and see if you can get me a meeting with him. Today, if possible. Jessica looked surprised. A meeting? May I ask why? Because my son saw something in this man that made him willing to face down 3 bullies. I want to understand what that was. After Jessica left, Elon found himself unable to focus on work. He watched the video dozens of times, each viewing revealing new details, the way other students gathered to watch but didn't help. The janitor's resigned acceptance of the bullying, as if he was used to such treatment. The moment when Xander's words seemed to give the man hope that someone cared about his dignity. By lunchtime, Jessica had returned with a full report. His name is Benito Ramirez, age 47. He's worked at Redwood Academy for 8 years with a perfect record. Never missed a day, never had a single complaint. He's a widower with 1 daughter, Sophia, who's 17 and a senior at Jefferson High School. She handed Elon a printed file. He immigrated from Guatemala 15 years ago. His wife died in a car accident 5 years ago. He works a second job on weekends cleaning office buildings to pay for his daughter's college applications. Elon studied the information carefully. What about the daughter? What's she like? Straight A student, captain of the math team. She's applied to several engineering programs, including MIT and Caltech. Her guidance counselor says she's one of the brightest students he's ever worked with. Engineering. Elon looked up with interest. Specifically aerospace engineering. According to her teachers, she dreams of working on space exploration projects. She's written several essays about the importance of making life multiplanetary. A slow smile spread across Elon's face. She wants to help colonize Mars. That's what her application essays suggest. She's cited your work at SpaceX as her primary inspiration. Elon leaned back in his chair, pieces of a larger picture beginning to form in his mind. A hard-working father raising a brilliant daughter who shared his own vision for humanity's future. A man who maintained his dignity and kindness despite facing daily disrespect. A family that reminded him of his own immigrant grandparents who had worked tirelessly to build a better life for their children. Jessica, I want to meet them both. The father and the daughter. I've already arranged a meeting with Mr. Ramirez for this afternoon, if that works for you. He seemed very nervous about it, but he agreed. Good. And see if the daughter can join us. I'd like to hear about her Mars colonization ideas. That afternoon, Elon found himself walking through the halls of Redwood Academy for the second time in 2 days. But this time he wasn't there as an angry parent or a concerned father. He was there as someone seeking to understand the character of a man who had somehow taught his son one of life's most important lessons without saying a word. He found Benito Ramirez in the maintenance room, carefully organizing cleaning supplies. The older man looked up as Elon entered, and his eyes widened with recognition and nervousness. Mr. Musk? Is everything okay with Xander? Did I do something wrong? Xander is fine, Elon assured him. Better than fine, actually. And you did nothing wrong. In fact, I'm here because you did everything right. Benito looked confused. I don't understand. My son stood up for you yesterday because he saw something in you that inspired him. Something that made him willing to face down boys twice his size. I want to understand what that was. They talked for over an hour. Elon learned about Benito's daily routine, his pride in his work, his dreams for his daughter's future. He heard about the small kindnesses Benito showed to students and staff, the way he remembered everyone's names and asked about their families. Sophia is my greatest achievement, Benito said, his voice filled with love and pride. She's so smart, Mr. Musk. Smarter than her old father could ever be. She understands things about science and space that amaze me. I'd like to meet her, Elon said. Would she be willing to come here after school? You want to meet Sophia? But why? Because any daughter raised by a man of your character must be extraordinary. And because Jessica tells me she wants to help colonize Mars. When Sophia arrived an hour later, Elon understood immediately why her father was so proud. The 17-year-old girl had intelligent eyes that sparkled when she talked about her dreams of space exploration. She spoke passionately about sustainable energy systems for Mars colonies and the challenges of long-term space travel. Your work on reusable rockets changed everything, she told Elon earnestly. You made it possible for people like me to believe that space exploration could be a real career, not just a fantasy. As the afternoon wore on, Elon found himself thinking about second chances and unexpected connections, about how one act of courage could reveal hidden treasures, about the importance of seeing people for who they truly were, not just for the jobs they performed. When he finally left the school that evening, his mind was spinning with possibilities. He had come to understand what his son had seen in Benito Ramirez. Now he was beginning to formulate a plan that would show the world what he saw too. That night, while his family slept, Elon sat in his home office, surrounded by glowing computer screens. Sleep was impossible. His engineer's mind was working overtime, not on rockets or electric cars, but on human potential and missed opportunities. He opened a secure connection to Tesla's research database and began typing. Within minutes, he had accessed public records, employment histories, and educational databases. What he discovered about the Ramirez family made his chest tight with both admiration and anger. Benito had arrived in the United States 15 years ago with nothing but hope and determination. He had worked construction jobs, restaurant kitchens, and cleaning services to support his young family. When his wife Maria was killed by a drunk driver 5 years ago, he could have given up. Instead, he worked harder, taking on weekend jobs to save money for Sophia's education. The financial records painted a picture of sacrifice that humbled Elon. Benito earned $32,000 a year from his school job, and another $8,000 from weekend cleaning. He sent $300 every month to his elderly mother in Guatemala. His rent took up nearly half his income. Yet somehow, he had managed to save $12,000 for Sophia's college fund. $12,000, Elon whispered to himself. For MIT, for a dream that cost $70,000 a year. He pulled up Sophia's academic records next. What he found was extraordinary. Perfect grades in advanced mathematics, physics, and chemistry. Science fair awards dating back to middle school. A research project on sustainable life support systems for Mars colonies that had won the state science competition. Her college application essays brought tears to his eyes. She wrote about growing up watching her father come home exhausted every night, yet never complaining about his work. She described how he taught her that dignity came from effort, not from job titles. She explained how watching SpaceX launches with her father had inspired her to dream of the stars. "I want to help humanity become a multi-planetary species," she had written, "because my father taught me that the best way to honor your struggles is to reach for something greater than yourself." But the most heartbreaking document was Sophia's recent rejection letter from MIT. Despite her perfect grades and extraordinary potential, she had been placed on the waiting list due to financial need. The scholarship she had applied for went to students whose families could contribute more to the university's fundraising efforts. Elon stared at that rejection letter until his eyes burned. Here was a brilliant young woman whose only crime was being born to a janitor instead of a billionaire. A girl whose father worked 2 jobs to save pennies while other parents wrote checks for millions. He picked up his phone and dialed Jessica's number, despite the late hour. "I need you to call MIT's admissions office first thing tomorrow morning," he said when she answered. "Set up a meeting with the dean. Tell them Elon Musk wants to discuss their scholarship program." "It's 2 in the morning, Mr. Musk. Are you sure this can't wait?" "No, it can't wait. A brilliant mind is being wasted while we sleep. Also, I need you to research something else. Find out everything you can about Redwood Academy's board of directors, who makes the hiring decisions, who approves new programs." "What kind of programs?" "The kind that change lives." After hanging up, Elon continued his research. He learned that Redwood Academy was struggling financially despite its wealthy student body. Enrollment was down, and several families had moved their children to newer, more technologically advanced private schools. The board was desperately seeking ways to improve their reputation and attract more students. He discovered that the school's current character education program consisted of a single class, taught by a part-time counselor who also handled college planning for 200 students. Anti-bullying efforts were limited to posters in the hallways and an annual assembly that most students ignored. As dawn broke over the California hills, Elon had filled 3 legal pads with notes and diagrams. His plan was becoming clearer with each hour. It was ambitious, maybe even crazy, but it felt right in a way that few things had in recent years. At 7 o'clock his phone rang. It was Jessica, calling from her car. "I'm already on my way to MIT, she said. "I have a meeting with Dean Richardson at 11. I also contacted Redwood Academy's board chair, Mrs. Patricia Winters. She's very excited about the possibility of a meeting with you." "Excellent. Schedule it for tomorrow morning. And Jessica, I need you to prepare a financial analysis. How much would it cost to fund a complete character education program at Redwood Academy? Include salaries, materials, training, everything. What kind of budget are we looking at? Whatever it takes. This isn't about money. It's about showing the world what happens when we invest in good people instead of just successful people." That afternoon, Elon visited Sophia at her part-time job at a local cafe. She was wiping down tables when he walked in, her face flushed from the heat of the kitchen. "Mr. Musk?" She looked around nervously. "Is everything okay? Is my father in trouble?" "Your father is fine. I came to talk to you about your future." They sat in a corner booth while Sophia nervously twisted her apron strings. Elon ordered 2 coffees and studied the remarkable young woman across from him. "Tell me about your Mars colony life support research," he said gently. Sophia's nervous expression transformed into excitement. For the next hour, she explained her ideas about closed-loop atmospheric systems, sustainable food production in low gravity, and psychological support structures for long-term space missions. Her knowledge was impressive, but her passion was extraordinary. "You know," Elon said when she finished, "SpaceX could use someone with your insights on our Mars colonization team." Sophia laughed, but there was sadness in her eyes. "That's a beautiful dream, Mr. Musk. But dreams don't pay for college tuition. What if I told you that MIT just called? They want to reconsider your application." Sophia's coffee cup clattered against the table. "What? But I was rejected. They said there were no scholarships available. Sometimes new scholarships become available, especially for students whose fathers teach other people's children about character and dignity. Tears began flowing down Sophia's cheeks. I don't understand. Are you saying? I'm saying that your father's kindness toward my son opened my eyes to something important. Talent and character aren't distributed based on wealth, but opportunity usually is. I'd like to help change that. Sophia covered her face with her hands and sobbed. When she finally looked up, her eyes were shining with hope and disbelief. Why would you do this for us? We're nobody special. That's where you're wrong, Elon said firmly. Your father is one of the most special people I've ever met. He raised an extraordinary daughter while maintaining his dignity in a world that often overlooks people like him. And you're going to help humanity reach Mars. That makes you very special indeed. As Elon drove home that evening, his phone buzzed with text messages from Jessica. MIT was interested in discussing a new scholarship program. Redwood Academy's board was eager to meet about potential improvements to their school. Everything was falling into place, but the most important piece of his plan was still taking shape in his mind. Tomorrow, he would present an idea that would shock everyone involved. An idea that would transform not just 2 lives, but an entire school's understanding of what real education meant. He smiled as he pulled into his driveway. Xander's moment of courage had started something bigger than any of them had imagined. Tomorrow the world would begin to see what Elon Musk saw when he looked at a janitor and his daughter, unlimited potential waiting for someone to believe in it. The next morning, Elon's executive conference room at Tesla headquarters buzzed with confused energy. Department heads from Tesla, SpaceX, and Neuralink sat around the polished table, wondering why they had been called to an emergency meeting that had nothing to do with business. Sarah Chen, Tesla's vice president of operations, checked her watch nervously. Does anyone know what this is about? My team is waiting for quarterly budget approvals. All I know is that Jessica said it was urgent, replied Dr. Marcus Webb from Neuralink. Something about heroes and education. The door opened and Elon walked in, but not with his usual focused energy. Today he moved with the quiet intensity of someone who had discovered something life-changing. Thank you all for coming on short notice, he began, taking his seat at the head of the table. I want to tell you a story about real heroes. Not the kind we see in movies, but the kind we walk past every day without noticing. For the next 20 minutes, Elon told them about Xander's courage, Benito's dignity, and Sophia's brilliant mind trapped by circumstances beyond her control. The room grew quiet as the executives realized this wasn't about quarterly earnings or production targets. I've spent my career trying to solve big problems, Elon continued. Climate change, space exploration, brain-computer interfaces. But this week, my 10-year-old son taught me about a problem I hadn't noticed. We're wasting human potential because we judge people by their job titles instead of their character. Tom Rodriguez, SpaceX's director of engineering, leaned forward. What exactly are you proposing, Elon? I'm proposing we do something that matters. Something that shows the world what happens when good people get real opportunities. Elon stood and walked to the whiteboard, picking up a marker. Sarah, what would it cost to fully fund MIT tuition for a deserving student? About $70,000 per year, so roughly $300,000 total. Pocket change for us. Marcus, what about funding a complete character education program at a private school? New curriculum, teacher training, the works. Dr. Webb pulled out his calculator. Depending on the scope, maybe 2 to 5 million over several years. Still pocket change. Elon wrote numbers on the board. Now, what's the cost of ignoring brilliant minds because their parents clean floors instead of running companies? What's the price of teaching children that wealth matters more than character? The room fell silent. These were people used to thinking in terms of profit margins and market share, not social justice and human potential. Elon, Sarah said carefully, this sounds like charity. That's not typically how we operate. This isn't charity, Elon replied firmly. This is investment. Investment in the kind of people who will help us reach Mars, solve climate change, and build the future. Investment in showing the world that character matters more than status. Meanwhile, at Redwood Academy, the aftermath of the viral video continued to create ripples. Principal Dr. Williams had spent the morning fielding calls from reporters, parents, and school board members. Some praised the school for producing such a courageous student. Others worried about the negative attention from the bullying incident. In the hallways, students treated Xander like a celebrity. Some high-fived him between classes. Others asked for selfies. A few older students who had previously ignored him now nodded respectfully when they passed. But the person most affected by the attention was Benito Ramirez himself. For 8 years he had moved through the school like a ghost, noticed only when trash cans needed emptying or spills required cleaning. Now students smiled and said, "Good morning, Mr. Ramirez," when they saw him. Teachers who had never acknowledged his presence stopped to chat about their weekends. During lunch break, Benito was replacing light bulbs in the main hallway when a group of younger students approached him. "Mr. Ramirez?" A third grader named Emily stepped forward shyly. "We wanted to say thank you for taking care of our school. We never told you before, but we notice how hard you work." Other students nodded agreement. "Yeah, you always make everything clean and nice for us," added a boy named Kevin. "That's really important." Benito's eyes filled with tears as he climbed down from his ladder. "Thank you, children. That means more to me than you know." As the students walked away, chattering excitedly about their good deed, Benito felt something he hadn't experienced in years. Respect. Recognition. The simple acknowledgement that his work mattered. Back at Tesla, Elon's meeting had evolved into a planning session. The executives, initially skeptical, were now engaged in the logistics of his vision. "So the MIT scholarship is straightforward," Jessica said, taking notes. "I've already spoken with Dean Richardson. They're very interested in the Future Engineers initiative you proposed." "What about the school program?" asked Sarah. "That's more complex," Elon admitted. "We're not just funding a program. We're trying to change how an entire institution thinks about character and dignity." Dr. Webb looked up from his tablet. "You know, there's research showing that character education programs work best when they're led by people who embody the values they're teaching. Someone the students respect and trust." "Exactly," Elon said, his eyes brightening. "Which brings me to the most important part of this plan." He turned back to the whiteboard and wrote a single name, Benito Ramirez. "I don't understand," Tom said. "What does the janitor have to do with character education?" "Everything," Elon replied. "For 8 years, Benito has been teaching character through his actions. He shows up early, works hard, treats everyone with respect, and maintains his dignity despite how others treat him. My son saw those lessons and chose to act on them." Sarah frowned. "Are you suggesting we somehow involve him in designing the curriculum?" "I'm suggesting something much bigger than that." Elon's voice grew quiet with the weight of his idea. "I'm suggesting we show the world what happens when we recognize true teachers, regardless of their job titles." The room buzzed with whispered conversations as the executives tried to understand where this was leading. "Elon," Dr. Webb said slowly, "what exactly are you planning?" "I'm planning to turn the world's expectations upside down. I'm planning to show everyone what my son already knows, that character matters more than credentials, and that the best teachers are often the ones we overlook." Jessica's phone buzzed with a text message. She read it quickly and looked up with excitement. The meeting with Redwood Academy's board is confirmed for tomorrow morning. Mrs. Winters says they're very eager to discuss potential improvements to their programs. Perfect, Elon said. Because tomorrow, I'm going to make them an offer that will change everything. Not just for Benito and Sophia, but for every student who walks those halls. What kind of offer? Sarah asked. Elon smiled mysteriously. The kind that shows the world what real education looks like. The kind that proves my son was right to defend a man the rest of us had overlooked. As the meeting ended and executives filed out, still buzzing with questions and excitement, Elon remained at the whiteboard. He stared at Benito's name, surrounded by numbers and plans and possibilities. Tomorrow he would present an idea so unexpected, so revolutionary, that it would shock everyone in that boardroom. An idea that would transform not just individual lives, but an entire school's understanding of what it meant to teach character. But tonight he had one more call to make, one more conversation that would determine whether his plan was brilliant or completely insane. He picked up his phone and dialed Benito's number. Mr. Ramirez, this is Elon Musk. I have a question for you and I need you to think very carefully before you answer. Benito nearly dropped his phone. He was sitting at his small kitchen table, helping Sophia with her calculus homework, when the call came. The number was unlisted, but the voice was unmistakable. Mr. Musk, is everything okay? Is Xander hurt? Xander is fine. This call is about you, Mr. Ramirez, and about Sophia. Sophia looked up from her textbook, her eyes widening as she realized who her father was talking to. Benito switched to speaker mode with trembling fingers. I don't understand, Benito said softly. I want to offer you both something, but first, I need to know if you trust me. Benito and Sophia exchanged confused glances. Of course we trust you, Mr. Musk. You have been very kind to us. Good. Because tomorrow morning, I'm going to present a proposal to your school's board of directors. A proposal that could change both your lives completely, but I can't tell you what it is yet. Sophia leaned closer to the phone. Mr. Musk, this is Sophia. What kind of proposal? The kind that only works if the people involved are willing to take a leap of faith. Sophia, how badly do you want to attend MIT? More than anything in the world, she whispered. And Mr. Ramirez, how much do you love working with young people? Benito thought about the students who had thanked him earlier that day, about Xander's brave defense, about the 8 years he had spent watching children grow and learn while he remained invisible in the background. Very much, Mr. Musk. The children, they give me hope. Perfect. Then here's what I need you to do. Tomorrow afternoon, I want you both to come to Redwood Academy at 2 o'clock. Dress professionally. Be prepared for the unexpected. But I have to work tomorrow, Benito protested. I cannot miss work. I'll handle that. Principal Williams will excuse you for the afternoon. Trust me. After Elon hung up, father and daughter sat in stunned silence. The calculus homework lay forgotten on the table. Papa, what do you think he wants? Sophia asked. I don't know, Major. But Mr. Musk helped Xander become brave. Maybe he wants to help us become something too. The next morning arrived grey and drizzy, matching the nervous energy that filled Redwood Academy's boardroom. 7 well-dressed board members sat around a polished mahogany table, checking their phones and whispering among themselves. Mrs. Patricia Winters, the board chairwoman, smoothed her expensive silk blouse and checked her watch for the 3rd time. He should be here any minute. Remember, Mr. Musk is considering a significant donation. Let's make sure we present our school in the best possible light. Board member Robert Chen nodded agreement. My sources say he's worth over $200 billion. Even a small donation from him could transform our facilities. What exactly does he want to discuss? Asked Dr. Jennifer Morrison, the only teacher representative on the board. Character education, Mrs. Winters replied. Apparently, the bullying incident involving his son has made him interested in how we handle student behavior. The door opened and Elon Musk walked in, followed by Jessica carrying a tablet and a thick folder. He wore a simple black suit but moved with the quiet confidence of someone accustomed to changing the world. "Thank you for meeting with me on short notice," Elon said, taking the seat at the head of the table. "I want to discuss the future of education at Redwood Academy." Mrs. Winters smiled broadly. "We're thrilled to have your interest, Mr. Musk. Our school has always prided itself on excellence." "Excellence is exactly what I want to talk about," Elon replied. "But first, I have a question. How many of you know Benito Ramirez?" The board members exchanged uncertain glances. "The janitor?" Dr. Morrison asked hesitantly. "Yes, the janitor. How many of you have had a conversation with him beyond hello?" Silence filled the room. Mrs. Winters shifted uncomfortably. "Mr. Musk, I'm not sure I understand the relevance." "The relevance is everything," Elon said firmly. "For 8 years, one of your most valuable educators has been working in this building, and you've all overlooked him." Board member Thomas Bradley frowned. "Educator? Mr. Musk, with all due respect, janitors aren't educators. They're maintenance staff. That's where you're wrong." Elon opened Jessica's folder and pulled out printed screenshots. "These are comments from the viral video of my son defending Mr. Ramirez. Listen to what your own students are saying." He read aloud, "Mr. Ramirez always remembers our names and asks about our families. He makes our school feel like home." Another comment, "When I was crying about my parents' divorce, Mr. Ramirez sat with me and shared his lunch. He didn't say much, but I felt better." And another, "He taught me that hard work is dignity, even when nobody notices." The boardroom grew quiet as Elon continued reading testimonials from students whose lives had been touched by Benito's quiet kindness. "This man has been teaching your students about character, dignity, and compassion every single day," Elon said. "He's been modeling the values you claim to want to instill. And you've been paying him $32,000 a year to empty trash cans." Mrs. Winters cleared her throat nervously. "Mr. Musk, while we appreciate Mr. Ramirez's dedication, I'm still not sure what you're proposing." "I'm proposing we stop wasting human potential. I'm proposing we recognize real teachers wherever we find them. And I'm proposing that Redwood Academy become the first school in the country to do something revolutionary." "What exactly?" Dr. Morrison asked, leaning forward with interest. Elon smiled. "I'm proposing that you promote Benito Ramirez to Director of Character Education. Full administrative position. $60,000 salary. His own office and program budget." The silence that followed was deafening. Board members stared at each other in shock. "A janitor?" Bradley sputtered. "As an administrator? That's unprecedented." "So was my son's courage," Elon replied calmly. "Unprecedented doesn't mean wrong." Mrs. Winters found her voice. "Then, Mr. Musk, while your intentions are admirable, there are regulations, qualifications. Mr. Ramirez doesn't have the educational background for an administrative position." "He will. Tesla has partnerships with several universities. He'll complete his bachelor's degree in education while working in his new role. Full scholarship, flexible schedule." "And if the board refuses?" Chen asked. "Then you'll miss the opportunity to receive Tesla's largest educational donation to date, $50 million for a new STEM wing, complete with renewable energy systems and the most advanced science labs in the state." The number hit the room like a thunderbolt. $50 million would transform Redwood Academy from a struggling private school into one of the most advanced educational facilities in California. "But there's a condition," Elon continued. "The donation is contingent on the board approving Benito Ramirez's promotion and supporting his character education program. No compromise, no negotiation, Mrs. Winter's face had gone pale. "Mr. Musk, you're asking us to risk our reputation on an untested janitor. I'm asking you to invest in a man who has already proven his character. A man who raised a daughter, brilliant enough to help colonize Mars. A man who taught my son what integrity looks like." Dr. Morrison raised her hand tentatively. "What about the daughter you mentioned?" "Sofia Ramirez just received a full scholarship to MIT through Tesla's Future Engineers Initiative. She'll study aerospace engineering and intern at SpaceX every summer. When she graduates, she'll help design the systems that take humanity to Mars." The board members whispered frantically among themselves. $50 million versus an unprecedented personnel decision. A guaranteed transformation of their school versus a massive risk to their traditional ways. "We need time to consider this," Mrs. Winters said finally. "You have until 2 o'clock this afternoon," Elon replied, standing up. "That's when I'll be back with the Ramirez family to hear your decision." As he walked toward the door, he paused and turned back. "Remember, you're not just choosing whether to promote a janitor. You're choosing whether to recognize that true educators come in many forms. You're choosing whether character matters more than credentials." The door closed behind him, leaving the board in stunned silence. Outside in the hallway, Elon smiled to himself. In 3 hours, everything would change. The only question was whether Redwood Academy was ready to join the revolution. But first, he had a promise to keep. At 11 o'clock that morning, a sleek black Tesla pulled up to the modest apartment building where the Ramirez family lived. Anito stood nervously by the window, wearing his one good suit, the same black one he had worn to his wife's funeral 5 years ago. He had polished his shoes until they gleamed and combed his graying hair with extra care. Sofia emerged from her bedroom wearing a simple blue dress borrowed from her friend Maria. She had stayed up late the night before, reading everything she could find about SpaceX and rehearsing answers to questions she imagined Elon might ask. "Papa, I'm so nervous I might throw up," she whispered. "We face this together, Mija," Benito replied, squeezing her hand. "Whatever Mr. Musk wants, we will listen with open hearts." When the Tesla's door opened, it wasn't a chauffeur who stepped out, but Elon Musk himself. He walked to their building entrance wearing jeans, a gray t-shirt and sneakers, looking more like a college student than one of the world's richest men. "Ready for an adventure?" he asked with a warm smile. The drive to SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne took 45 minutes through Los Angeles traffic. Elon used the time to ask Sofia about her favorite subjects and her dreams for the future. He asked Benito about his work, his memories of Guatemala, and his hopes for his daughter. "Tell me about your wife," Elon said gently as they approached the SpaceX facility. Benito's eyes grew soft with memory. Maria was a teacher in Guatemala. She always said that education was the ladder children used to climb out of poverty. "When we came to America, she worked in factories so I could learn English and find better work." She never got to see Sofia graduate high school, but his voice caught. "She would be so proud today." Sofia reached over and took her father's hand. "She is proud, Papa. I know she is." As they pulled into the SpaceX parking lot, Sofia gasped. Towering above them were massive white buildings with the SpaceX logo gleaming in the California sun. Through the fence, she could see rocket components being moved by enormous cranes. "Welcome to the future," Elon said. At the security gate, guards who clearly knew Elon well waved them through with respectful nods. Inside the main building, Sofia's eyes grew wide with wonder. Engineers in casual clothes hurried past, carrying tablets and blueprints. Large screens displayed rocket launches and Mars surface images. The air hummed with the energy of people building humanity's future. "Mr. Musk," called a tall woman with short brown hair and kind eyes. "You must be Sofia and Mr. Ramirez." I'm Dr. Jennifer Liu, Head of Life Support Systems. I've been looking forward to meeting you." Sophia nearly fainted. Dr. Liu was one of her heroes, a brilliant engineer whose research on closed-loop atmospheric systems Sophia had studied for months. "Dr. Liu," Sophia stammered, "your work on carbon dioxide scrubbing systems for long-term missions is incredible. I wrote my science fair project based on your research." Dr. Liu's face lit up. "Really? I'd love to hear about it. What was your hypothesis?" As Sophia launched into an explanation of her project, using technical terms that amazed the adults around her, Elon caught Benito's eye. "She gets that passion from you," Elon said quietly. "From me? No, sir. Sophia is much smarter than her old father. Intelligence comes in many forms, Mr. Ramirez. You may not understand rocket science, but you understand something more important: how to raise a human being with character and dreams." The tour continued through the facility. They watched engineers testing Raptor engines that would one day power missions to Mars. They saw Dragon capsules being prepared for trips to the International Space Station. They stood in mission control where flight controllers monitored rockets carrying astronauts to space. But the most magical moment came when Elon led them to a restricted area where a full-size Starship prototype stood gleaming under bright lights. "This," Elon said proudly, "is what will take the first humans to Mars." Sophia stood transfixed, staring up at the massive silver rocket. "So beautiful," she whispered. "The heat shield tiles, the fin design, the Raptor engine configuration, it's perfect." Dr. Liu smiled at Elon. "She really does know her stuff." "Tell me about the life support challenges for a Mars mission," Elon said to Sophia. For the next 20 minutes, Sophia discussed atmospheric recycling, water reclamation, food production, and psychological support systems for long-duration spaceflight. Her knowledge was impressive, but her passion was extraordinary. She spoke with the enthusiasm of someone who had dreamed of this moment her entire life. "You know," Dr. Liu said when Sophia finished, "we're always looking for bright minds to join our team. Have you considered applying for our internship program?" Sophia's face fell slightly. "I would love to, but I don't think I'll be able to afford college after all. MIT said no, and even the state schools are too expensive." Elon and Dr. Liu exchanged meaningful looks. "Sophia," Elon said gently, "what if I told you that MIT just called this morning? They want to reconsider your application." Sophia's knees nearly buckled. "What? But that's impossible. They already rejected me." Sometimes new opportunities arise, especially when people realize they're overlooking exceptional talent. Benito steadied his daughter as tears began streaming down her face. "Mito, what are you saying?" "I'm saying that Tesla has established a new scholarship program called the Future Engineers Initiative. It provides full funding for students who want to help humanity become a multiplanetary species. Sophia, you're our first recipient." Sophia collapsed into a nearby chair, sobbing with joy and disbelief. "This can't be real. Things like this don't happen to people like us." "They do now," Elon said firmly. "Character and intelligence matter more than your bank account. Your father taught my son that lesson, and now it's time for the world to learn it too." Dr. Liu knelt beside Sophia's chair. "There's more. If you accept the MIT scholarship, SpaceX would like to offer you a paid internship every summer. You'll work directly with our Mars mission planning team. And when you graduate," Elon added, "you'll have a full-time job offer waiting for you here. You'll help design the systems that take humanity to Mars." Benito sat heavily in another chair, overwhelmed by the magnitude of what was happening. "Mr. Musk, this is too much. We are simple people. How can we ever repay such kindness?" "You already have," Elon replied. "Your kindness to my son, your dignity in the face of disrespect, your character in raising such an extraordinary daughter, that's worth more than money." He paused, looking at both of them seriously. "But there is one way you can repay me, Mr. Ramirez, by accepting an opportunity that will let you share your wisdom with other young people." "What kind of opportunity?" "That's what we'll discuss at 2 o'clock. For now, just know that your life is about to change as much as Sophia's." As they prepared to leave SpaceX, Sophia took one last look at the Starship prototype. "Papa, do you remember when I was little and I said I wanted to touch the stars?" Benito nodded, his eyes shining with pride and tears. "Today I learned that dreams really do come true. But only because you taught me to dream big and work hard." She hugged her father tightly. "Whatever happens next, we face it together, just like Mama would have wanted." On the drive back to Redwood Academy, Sophia stared out the window at the passing cityscape, but her mind was millions of miles away, imagining the red landscape of Mars and the spacecraft that would take her there. Benito watched his daughter's face and thought about his wife's words. Education is the ladder children use to climb out of poverty. Today, Sophia hadn't just found a ladder, she had found a rocket ship to the stars. But their biggest surprise was still waiting for them at the school board meeting. In 1 hour, they would learn that Elon Musk's generosity extended far beyond college scholarships and dream jobs. In 1 hour, everything they thought they knew about their future would change forever. At exactly 1:45 p.m., Benito and Sophia sat nervously in the leather chairs outside Principal Williams's office. Benito kept checking his watch, while Sophia stared at a framed photo of the school's founding class from 1952. Both were still processing the morning's incredible events at SpaceX. "Papa," Sophia whispered, "what do you think Mr. Musk wants to discuss with the school board?" "I don't know, Mija. But after this morning, I'm ready to believe anything is possible." The office door opened and Mrs. Henderson appeared. "Mr. Ramirez, Ms. Ramirez, they're ready for you now." They followed her down the marble hallway toward the main auditorium. Sophia was confused. Weren't they supposed to meet with just the board? "Mrs. Henderson," Benito asked politely, "I thought we were meeting in the boardroom." "Change of plans," she replied with a mysterious smile. Mr. Musk requested the larger space. As they approached the auditorium doors, they could hear the murmur of many voices inside. Sophia's stomach fluttered with nervousness. "Papa, it sounds like there are a lot of people in there." The doors opened, and Sophia gasped. The auditorium was packed. Every teacher at Redwood Academy was there, along with the school board, several parents, and even some students who had somehow heard about the gathering. At the front of the room stood Elon Musk, looking calm and confident. When he saw the Ramirez family enter, he smiled warmly and gestured for them to join him on stage. "Ladies and gentlemen," Elon began, his voice carrying easily through the silent auditorium, "thank you for gathering on such short notice. I want to tell you about heroes." He gestured toward Benito and Sophia, who stood awkwardly beside him, unsure what was happening. "Last week, my 10-year-old son witnessed an act of cruelty in these hallways. 3 older students were bullying a member of your staff, treating him with disrespect simply because they could. My son chose to intervene." Murmurs rippled through the audience. Everyone had heard about the viral video by now. "But this story isn't really about my son's courage, though I'm proud of him. It's about the man he chose to defend. For 8 years, Benito Ramirez has worked in this building. He arrives early, stays late, and treats every person he meets with dignity and kindness." Elon's voice grew stronger. "How many of you have taken the time to really know Mr. Ramirez? How many know that he sends money to his elderly mother in Guatemala every month? How many know he's been teaching himself advanced mathematics to help his daughter with homework?" The auditorium grew uncomfortably quiet. Teachers shifted in their seats, many looking ashamed. "How many of you know that his daughter Sophia just received a full scholarship to study aerospace engineering at MIT? Surprised gasps echoed through the room. Sophia felt her cheeks burn as hundreds of eyes turned toward her. Sophia dreams of helping humanity colonize Mars. Elon continued. She's already designed innovative life support systems that impressed our top engineers at SpaceX. She'll be interning with us every summer and joining our Mars mission team after graduation. Mrs. Patricia Winters, the board chairwoman, stood up from her front row seat. Mr. Musk, while we're happy for the Ramirez family, I'm not sure why you've gathered the entire faculty for this announcement. Because, Elon said, his expression growing serious, I want everyone to understand what we've been overlooking. Mr. Ramirez hasn't just been cleaning your floors, he's been teaching your students through his example. He pulled out his phone and began reading. These are comments from students about Mr. Ramirez. He always remembers my name and asks about my sick grandmother. When I dropped my lunch money, he helped me find it and didn't tell anyone I was crying. He taught me that every job has dignity if you do it with pride. The room was completely silent now. For 8 years, you've had one of your most effective character educators working among you, and most of you never noticed because he carried a mop instead of a degree. Mr. James Crawford, as senior English teacher, raised his hand tentatively. Mr. Musk, what exactly are you proposing? I'm proposing that we stop judging people by their job titles and start recognizing real teaching when we see it. Elon turned to face Benito directly. Mr. Ramirez, the school board has voted to offer you a new position. Would you be interested in becoming Redwood Academy's first director of character education? The auditorium erupted in shocked whispers. Benito's face went pale. Director? But Mr. Musk, I clean floors. I don't have the education for such a position. You'll complete your bachelor's degree in education through Tesla's University Partnership Program. Full scholarship, flexible schedule. Your life experience combined with formal training will make you uniquely qualified to teach students about integrity and respect. Sophia grabbed her father's arm, her eyes wide with disbelief. Papa, he's offering you a chance to be a real teacher, like Mama was. But the salary? Benito protested weakly. $60,000 annually, plus benefits and a program budget, Mrs. Winters announced, reading from a paper with a slightly stunned expression. The position has been approved by the board. The room buzzed with excitement and confusion. Some teachers looked inspired, others seemed skeptical. Mrs. Linda Foster, a mathematics teacher, stood up. With all due respect, what qualifications does a janitor have to teach character education to our students? The question hung in the air like a challenge. Elon's expression hardened slightly. The same qualification my son recognized when he chose to defend him. Character. Something that apparently can't be taught in graduate courses. Sophia stepped forward, her voice clear and strong despite her nervousness. My father may not have degrees on his wall, but he has something more important. He has integrity. Every day for 8 years, he's shown your students what it looks like to work hard, treat others with respect, and maintain dignity no matter how you're treated. Her voice grew stronger as she continued. Some of your students were watching and learning. Xander was one of them. That's why he couldn't walk away when my father was being bullied. That's why he knew right from wrong. Mr. Thomas Yang, a science teacher, nodded thoughtfully. The research does show that character education works best when it's modeled consistently rather than just taught in isolated lessons. Exactly, Elon agreed. Mr. Ramirez has been providing that consistent modeling. Now we're asking him to formalize that role and help train others to do the same. Principal Williams cleared his throat nervously. Mr. Musk, this is all very generous, but what about the financial aspect of this program? Tesla will fund the entire character education initiative with a $50 million donation. New STEM labs, renewable energy systems, and a complete character curriculum. The only condition is that Mr. Ramirez leads the program. The number hit the faculty like a thunderbolt. $50 million would transform their struggling school into one of the most advanced in the state. Dr. Patricia Chen, the school counselor, raised her hand. Mr. Ramirez, how do you feel about this opportunity? Benito looked out at the sea of faces. Teachers who had walked past him for 8 years, board members who had never spoken to him, students who were finally seeing him as more than invisible background. I am scared, he said honestly, his voice thick with emotion. I am scared because this is bigger than anything I ever imagined. But I am also grateful that someone finally sees that character matters more than credentials. He paused, gathering courage. My wife Maria always said that the best teachers touch hearts, not just minds. If this position lets me help students understand that kindness is strength and that dignity comes from how we treat others, then yes, I accept. The auditorium erupted in applause. Some teachers stood, moved by Benito's simple dignity. Students cheered from the back rows. Even some skeptical board members found themselves clapping. Sophia hugged her father tightly, tears streaming down both their faces. Mama would be so proud, Papa. You're going to be the teacher she always knew you were. As the applause continued, Elon smiled with satisfaction. His plan was working perfectly. But he had one more surprise that would shock everyone even more. The biggest revelation was yet to come. As the applause finally died down, Elon remained at the podium. His expression had changed from satisfied to something deeper, more personal. The audience sensed that the presentation wasn't over. There's something else, Elon said quietly, his voice carrying a weight that made everyone lean forward. Something I haven't told any of you, something that shows why this moment was always meant to happen. Benito looked up at Elon with curious eyes. Sophia stopped wiping her tears. The auditorium fell into complete silence. Before I continue, Elon said, I need to ask Mr. Ramirez a question. Benito, do you remember working at Westfield Shopping Center about 3 years ago? You had a part-time weekend job there. Benito nodded slowly, confused. Yes, I cleaned the food court on Sundays. But how did you know that? Do you remember finding a lost little boy there one Sunday afternoon? A 7-year-old who was crying and calling for his papa? The color drained from Benito's face. His hand flew to his mouth as the memory came flooding back. Yes. There was a little boy. Blonde hair, very scared. I stayed with him until security found his father. Sophia gasped, beginning to understand. In the audience, teachers and board members exchanged confused glances, not yet grasping the significance. What did you do for that little boy while you waited? Elon asked, his voice thick with emotion. I bought him ice cream. Vanilla, his favorite. I told him stories about my daughter to help him stop crying. I promised him his papa would come. Benito's eyes were wide with realization. That little boy That little boy was my son, Xander. The auditorium erupted in shocked gasps and whispers. Sophia grabbed her father's arm, her eyes filling with tears of amazement. Benito staggered slightly, overwhelmed by the impossible coincidence. For 3 years, Elon continued, his voice breaking slightly, I've been searching for the man who took care of my son that day. I hired investigators. I posted rewards. I searched everywhere. The security footage showed a maintenance worker, but his face was turned away, and he disappeared before I could find him. He paused, looking directly at Benito. When I saw the video of Xander defending you, I knew there was something familiar about your face. It took me days to realize why. You were the guardian angel who saved my son from his worst nightmare. Benito's legs gave out, and he sat heavily in a nearby chair. I cannot believe this. After all these years, what happened that day? Mrs. Henderson asked, speaking for everyone who was desperate to understand. Elon's eyes never left Benito's face. Xander and I were shopping for his birthday present. The mall was crowded, and somehow he got separated from me. For over an hour, he was lost and terrified. I was going out of my mind with fear. He turned to address the full audience. When security finally found Xander, he wasn't crying anymore. He was sitting at a table in the food court, eating ice cream and laughing at stories about a smart girl who wanted to be an astronaut. A maintenance worker was with him, treating my son like he was his own. Sophia began crying softly. "Papa, you never told me about this."
"What was there to tell, Misha? I helped a lost child. Any father would do the same."
"But you stayed with him for over an hour," Elon said. "You could have just called security and walked away. Instead, you protected him, comforted him, made him feel safe. You treated a stranger's child with the same love you show Sophia." Mrs. Winters found her voice. "Mr. Musk, this is incredible. You mean to tell us that the janitor your son defended had once saved your son?" "Not just saved him," Elon corrected, "taught him something precious. That day, Benito showed Xander what kindness looks like when no one is watching. He demonstrated that character isn't about having money or recognition. It's about how you treat people who need help." He walked over to where Benito sat, still stunned by the revelation. "When Xander chose to defend you last week, he was acting on a lesson you taught him 3 years ago. You showed him that good people take care of each other, regardless of age, race, or social status. He learned that from you." Benito looked up with tears streaming down his face. "But I didn't know it was your son. I just saw a scared little boy who needed help." "That's exactly the point," Elon said firmly. "You helped him because it was the right thing to do, not because you knew who he was. You treated him with the same kindness you show everyone." Dr. Morrison, the teacher representative on the board, wiped her eyes. "This is extraordinary. The person your son defended had once been his protector." "It's more than extraordinary," Elon replied. "It's proof that character creates connections across time and space. It shows that when we act with integrity, we plant seeds that bloom in ways we never imagine." Sophia stood up and walked to her father. "Papa, do you remember what you told me that night? You said you helped a little boy find his way home and that his father was so grateful he cried." Benito nodded. "I remember. The father hugged me and said I had given him back the most precious thing in his life." "That father was Mr. Musk," Sophia said, her voice full of wonder. "And now, all these years later, he's giving us back our dreams." The parallel hit everyone in the auditorium like lightning. The man who had once saved Elon's most precious treasure was now having his own treasure, his daughter's future saved in return. "This is why I believe so strongly in Benito's new role," Elon told the assembly. 3 years ago, he proved he understands the most important lesson any educator can teach. We are all responsible for taking care of each other. He gestured to include both Benito and Sophia. When Xander defended this man, he was completing a circle of kindness that began years before in a shopping mall food court. He was honoring a lesson about character that he learned from the very person he was defending. Mrs. Foster, who had questioned Benito's qualifications earlier, raised her hand hesitantly. "Mr. Ramirez, how does it feel to know that your kindness came back to you in such an incredible way?" Benito struggled to find words. "It feels like my wife Maria is watching from heaven and smiling. She always said that kindness is never wasted, that it always finds its way back to us. I never believed it until today." He stood up slowly, looking out at the faculty with new confidence. "I accept this position not because I deserve it, but because I want to teach other children what Xander already knows. that we are all connected, that how we treat the weakest person among us shows who we really are. And Sophia added, her voice strong and clear, that sometimes the person you help today might be the one who saves your tomorrow. The auditorium burst into sustained applause. This time, every person was standing. Teachers who had walked past Benito for 8 years were applauding the man who had been teaching character lessons all along. Board members who had questioned his qualifications were celebrating someone whose qualifications couldn't be measured by degrees or certificates. As the applause continued, Elon put his arms around both Benito and Sophia. 3 years of searching had led to this moment of perfect connection. One act of kindness had created ripples that touched 2 families across time, proving that character and compassion could overcome any barrier. The circle was finally complete. As the standing ovation gradually subsided and people began to take their seats, Elon remained at the podium with Benito and Sophia beside him. But something in his expression suggested there was still more to come. Before we adjourn, Elon said, raising his hand for attention, I want to share one final thought. This story began with my son's courage, but it ends with understanding who the real hero has been all along. The auditorium fell quiet again, sensing that this final revelation would be the most important of all. When that video went viral last week, millions of people called Xander a hero. And he was brave. Absolutely. But I want to tell you about the real hero of this story. He turned to face Benito directly. The real hero is a man who has been quietly teaching character for 8 years, without recognition or praise. A man who helped a lost child not because cameras were rolling, but because it was the right thing to do. A man who faced bullying with dignity and responded to cruelty with grace. Sophia wiped fresh tears from her eyes as she watched her father's face transform with emotion. The real hero, Elon continued, is someone who worked 2 jobs to save pennies for his daughter's education, never complaining about the exhaustion or the struggle. Someone who sent money to his elderly mother every month, even when his own family barely had enough. Mrs. Henderson, who had witnessed the original bullying incident, stood up in the audience. Mr. Musk, if I may, I've watched Mr. Ramirez for years. He never once responded to disrespect or sift anger. He never spoke badly about students who treated him poorly. He just continued being kind. Exactly, Elon nodded. Heroism isn't just about one moment of courage. It's about choosing kindness every single day, especially when no one notices or cares. Dr. Lisa Park, the school psychologist, raised her hand. Mr. Ramirez, how did you maintain such patience and dignity when faced with daily disrespect? Benito stood slowly, still processing everything that had happened. I think about my wife Maria, he said quietly. She used to tell me that how people treat you says something about them, not about you. She said that our job is to show the world what goodness looks like, even when the world doesn't seem to care. His voice grew stronger as he continued. Every morning when I came to work, I chose to smile at the students, to remember their names, to ask about their families, not because they always smiled back, but because I wanted them to know that someone cared about them. And it worked, said Jake Morrison, the 6th grader who had been in detention with Xander. He had somehow made his way into the assembly. Mr. Ramirez, you always made me feel like I mattered, even when I was having a bad day. More students began speaking up from the back of the auditorium. You helped me find my lost retainer without making me feel stupid. You always asked about my sick grandfather. When kids made fun of my old backpack, you told me it looked strong and reliable. You taught me that work isn't something to be ashamed of. Each testimony painted a picture of a man who had been quietly transforming lives through small acts of kindness. Benito stood overwhelmed, realizing for the first time the true impact of his daily choices. This is what real heroism looks like, Elon said, his voice filled with admiration. Not the dramatic moment that gets captured on video, but the thousand small moments that happen when no one is watching. Sophia stepped forward to the microphone. My father always told me that heroes don't wear capes. They wear work clothes and get up early and treat every person they meet like family. He taught me that dignity comes from how hard you work and how kind you are, not from how much money you make. She paused, looking out at the audience with new confidence. When I was little and kids at school made fun of my dad's job, he told me something I'll never forget. He said, "Mija, there is no shame in honest work. The only shame is in not working hard or not treating people with respect." Mr. Yang, the science teacher, stood up. "Mr. Ramirez, I owe you an apology. I've walked past you thousands of times over the years. I never took the time to really see you or appreciate what you were doing for our school community." His admission opened floodgates. One by one, teachers began standing and acknowledging their blindness to Benito's contributions. "I'm sorry I never thanked you for always making sure my classroom was perfect for my students. I apologize for treating you like you were invisible instead of an essential part of our team. I'm embarrassed that it took a 10-year-old to show me what I should have seen all along." Benito looked overwhelmed by the outpouring of recognition and regret. "Please," he said, raising his hands, "there is no need for apologies. We all do our best with what we know at the time. But that's exactly why you're the perfect person for this new role," Dr. Morrison said. "You understand forgiveness and grace. You know how to see the good in people even when they don't see it in themselves." Elon nodded approvingly. Character education isn't about teaching rules from a textbook. It's about modeling the behavior we want to see in the world. Benito has been doing that masterfully for 8 years. Principal Williams, who had been silent through most of the assembly, finally stood up. "Mr. Ramirez, I want to formally apologize on behalf of the entire administration. We failed to see and celebrate the educator you've always been. That changes today." He turned to address the full assembly. "From this moment forward, Mr. Ramirez will be treated with the respect and recognition he has always deserved. His new office will be next to mine, and his voice will be heard in every decision that affects student character development." The symbolism wasn't lost on anyone. The man who had worked in the basement maintenance room would now have an office in the main administrative suite. Sophia hugged her father tightly. "Papa, do you realize what just happened? You didn't just get a new job. You got the recognition you've always deserved. More than that," Elon added. "You've shown everyone here what true leadership looks like. You've proven that the best teachers don't just share knowledge, they share themselves." As the assembly began to break up, students and teachers approached Benito to shake his hand and congratulate him. Many shared memories of his small kindnesses that had made their days brighter. Xander, who had been sitting quietly in the front row throughout the entire assembly, finally approached the stage. He looked up at Benito with shining eyes. "Mr. Ramirez, I'm sorry I didn't know you helped me at the mall. But I want you to know something. Even if you hadn't, I still would have defended you. Because you taught me what a good person looks like just by being yourself." Benito knelt down to Xander's level. "And you, young man, taught me something equally important. You showed me that one person's courage can change everything." He paused, his voice thick with emotion. "Thank you for seeing me when others could not. Thank you for standing up when it would have been easier to walk away. Thank you for taking care of me when I was scared and lost." Xander replied. Both times, as the auditorium slowly emptied, 4 people remained on stage. Elon, Benito, Sophia, and Xander. They stood together in comfortable silence, each processing the magnitude of what had just occurred. "So what happens now?" Sophia asked. "Now," Elon said with a smile, "we prove that character matters more than credentials. We show the world that heroes come in many forms, and we make sure that no good person ever goes unrecognized again." Benito looked around at the auditorium, where he had just been honored after 8 years of invisible service. My wife always said that kindness is never wasted. Today I finally understand what she meant. She was right, Elon agreed. Kindness creates connections we can't even imagine. And sometimes, those connections change the world. As they walked off the stage together, the late afternoon sun streamed through the auditorium windows, casting long shadows that seemed to point toward a future full of possibilities. The janitor had become a director. The lost child had become a protector. The frightened girl had become a future Mars explorer. And the searching father had found not just the man he was looking for, but a new understanding of what heroism really meant. The true cliffhanger had been revealed. Real heroes don't need recognition to do the right thing. They just need the courage to be themselves, day after day, until the world finally learns to see. Sophia's dorm room at MIT was decorated with photos of Mars and a framed picture of her father in his new office at Redwood Academy. Every night she called home to share stories about her aerospace engineering classes and her weekend internships at SpaceX. "Papa, today I worked on life support systems for the Mars habitat," she told Benito excitedly during one of their evening calls. "Dr. Liu says my designs could actually be used on real missions." Benito smiled as he sat in his character education office, still amazed by the nameplate on his door that read Director Benito Ramirez. His walls were covered with thank you letters from students and photos from his weekend bachelor's degree classes. "Your mama would be so proud, Mija. You're living both our dreams." At Redwood Academy, bullying incidents had dropped by 80% since Benito implemented his Character Champions program. Older students now mentored younger ones, creating a network of kindness throughout the school. The hallways that once echoed with cruelty now rang with laughter and mutual respect. Xander, now in 6th grade, served as Benito's special assistant, helping new students feel welcome and teaching them about the power of standing up for others. Their friendship had become legendary among students and teachers alike. "Mr. Ramirez," Xander said one afternoon as they planned the next Character Champions meeting, "do you ever think about how everything started with just one moment of courage?" Benito chuckled, remembering the scared 10-year-old who had faced down 3 bullies. "I think about how your courage saved much more than just me, Xander. It saved all of us." Elon visited the school regularly, no longer as just a concerned parent, but as someone who had learned that true success meant investing in character, not just technology. He often brought SpaceX engineers to speak with students, but his favorite moments were watching Benito teach lessons about integrity and respect. The viral video that started everything now had over 50 million views, inspiring similar acts of courage around the world. But the 4 people at the center of the story knew the real magic wasn't in the fame or recognition. It was in the quiet understanding that character creates connections across time and space. That kindness planted today blooms in ways we never expect. And that sometimes the most important heroes are the ones who simply choose to care, day after day, until the world learns to see them clearly. Sophia would graduate in 3 years and join the team designing humanity's first permanent Mars colony. Benito would complete his degree and become one of the most respected character educators in the country. Xander would grow up knowing that courage comes in many forms and that defending others is always worth the risk. And Elon would carry with him the lesson that his 10-year-old son and a humble janitor had taught him, that the most valuable currency in the world isn't money or fame, but the simple decision to treat every person with dignity and respect. The circle of kindness that began in a shopping mall food court and continued in a school hallway had grown to touch millions of lives. And it all started with one man's willingness to help a lost child, and one child's willingness to defend a forgotten hero. Sometimes the smallest acts of character create the biggest changes in the world. This incredible true story shows us that kindness always comes back to us, even when we least expect it. Xander's courage to defend someone who couldn't defend himself created a chain of events that changed multiple lives forever. Sometimes the smallest act of standing up for others can spark the biggest transformations in the world. Whether you're 10 years old or 50, you have the power to be someone's hero just by choosing kindness over silence. We'd love to know where you're listening from. Drop a comment below and tell us your city or country. If this story inspired you to look for the everyday heroes around you, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. Together, we can spread more stories of courage and kindness to people who need to hear them. Speaking of inspiring stories, there's another amazing video appearing on your screen right now that you absolutely have to see. Click on it and keep the inspiration going. Remember, real heroes don't need capes. They just need the courage to care when it matters most.